everyone, Jordan here. So, are you tired of getting absolutely ganked by T15, etc., random packs? Are you tired? Because I am. And I got tired of being a just glass cannon, and even though I was doing T15s quite fine, um, I still found myself randomly dying to just the silliest stuff like random poison blob dead, random got hit by a projectile from a buffed archer or a crossbow undead warrior dead. So I just got tired of all that, so I started messing around with different builds and different things I could do with my witch hunter. And I tried all kinds of wacky stuff. Like I tried maces, physical bleed, stacking different types of defenses, and nothing was really working with a balance until I ended up with this build that I have right now. That I want to share just with my fellow witch hunters out there, because there's not that many of us left. I feel like we're dying breed. So I'm just hoping I give you guys some hope until we get some patches and we get buffed, uh, so we can sweat like a storm weaver. So without further ado, uh, I'm just gonna go ahead and get on with what this quick explanation is gonna be for this build. So first of all, um, I just want to give you like a why and some disclaimers. Okay, so this is the bottom line up front. Okay, so number one, this is not a sweat build. You're not gonna be blasting, T16, you know, in 1 second, teleporting, flickering all over, melting everything on sight before you get hit. That's not gonna happen with this build. Uh, we're not there yet. We gotta get buffed. We gotta get some more new skills released, etc. So if that's what you're looking for, you gotta reclass, re-roll to Stormweaver or whatever's top of the meta right now. That's what you gotta do. Sorry. Uh, However, if you're if you're a Witcher enjoyer like myself, uh, this will help you. Uh, this will help you survive way better. Okay. Number two, this is a band aid, so there is a lot of potential uh, for absolutely destroying maps with this class, but I feel like we're missing some skills, maybe some passive nodes to get that rolling. So this is kind of like a patch, or a band-aid on the wound while we get that. So understand that going in. Number three, and this is something I will guarantee, this will definitely reduce the stress that you're feeling. If you're like me and you're like going through maps and just randomly getting one shotted for no freaking reason. You were playing perfect. You looked away for half a second and you're dead. So this is gonna prevent like most of that. That's not gonna happen anymore with this build. Okay, so that's why I'm saying it's 120% stress damage reduction, and that's the most valuable stat you can get with your money's worth. Okay, so now let's move on to the pros and cons of this build. So for the pros, number one, you can do T15 with this build, and I will do that at the end of the video just to show you. Uh, I guess a proof of concept or whatever. So you can do you don't have to feel like, oh my god, this gonna be like one of those maces build where like you can do T1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way to like 10, and then when you get to 15, you can't do enough damage and it just feels so slow and sluggish. This is not that, so this is fine. And then once, if I wanted to spend a lot of divines on it, I could probably get it to a point where like I could do 16 plus plus plus, but I just don't. I don't have the money for that right now, but that's fine. Hopefully we'll get there, or we'll get a patch before that. Number two, this is absolutely breach friendly. So you pop a breach and you're just gonna pop everything on site. As you know, breach monsters are demons, so got 20% chance to explode. You know, that's not news for anybody, but the problem was with breaches is that you would randomly get unlucky, and then you get three elites spawned right on top of you, the ones with the purple circles, and then you just get blasted with physical damage out of the wazoo. So you just die for no reason sometimes on breach. This happens way less with this build. Uh, Number three, kind of like the main selling point of this, anti gank. So you're not gonna be randomly dying out of nowhere. Like you will definitely get enough. You'll get enough warning just based on like the different warning signs that this build provides for you to be able to like roll, potion, or whatever you need to do to survive. That's gonna be way easier with this build. Number four, clear is pretty good. Even on 15, it's pretty fine. Once you start juicing the maps, it gets a little slower, but that's probably because this my equipment is not as good as it should be. But you can definitely see the note. You can notice the change when you start putting the lyrium on your maps and the monsters start getting a lot of health. You gotta get them like stacked together, and then once you pop one, and they explode, like it's easier. But you will see that. Uh, However, there's disclaimer with that. If you get this, if you get the equipment perfect, like min max it, the clear becomes excellent. So that's it's got potential for sure. Number five, it's just cool to blast stuff like a Witcher, and then with the source ward built in, it's kind of like you have one of those charms that's anti monsters, etc. Whatever fantasy. Okay, but it's not all good, right? So let's take a look at the cons. Um, so number one, because of the way you have to path with this build, you're gonna miss out on a lot of extra juice on the boss damage. So you gotta get creative on how to maintain that DPS and still, keep this build. Uh, I've done some things. It's definitely open for more exploration on how you can maximize the damage that you do with this build. But it feels a lot less than when I was like full glass cannon doing bosses. It felt a lot faster, and then you're also losing on some other things that I will talk about in a second. Number two, no CC. So this build is not an electrocute build. You're not gonna use it because it just doesn't work with what you want to do. Um, However, the trade-off is before electrocute was like kind of a that's how you prevented the damage. Now you just don't care about like 90% of everything that's hitting you. You don't care. Like it doesn't even face me. Even in T15, uh, it's where you get to like chaos with number three. That's where you gotta be careful. But it's easy to tell. So no electrocute. So you just gotta be aware that unlike before, if you were playing electrocute, you gotta look at projectiles coming your way, etc., and dodge them. Before there was no projectiles most of the time. Now they are coming at you, so you just gotta make sure they're not chaos. Because if it's anything else, then you're like whatever. But if it's chaos, you gotta dodge, you gotta move. Number three, chaos damage. There's no reduction for it with this build. The only reduction I guess from my resistance, right? Everything else is it's just gonna go right through everything. So how can you tell if what you're getting is chaos? The way this build works, any damage that doesn't pop your ward is chaos. So if you don't see that shield pop off when you get hit with something, you already know it's chaos. Move out of the way. So it's an easy tell, but also you gotta understand that's your weakness. Um, you're not rolling around immune to it. So you gotta be careful with decay and that the other maps that favor chaos monsters and chaos bosses. Like they will still be able to like uh, melt you down like before. Uh, Number four, word quality is bugged. So this build is not as good as it should be. So it could be even better with the quality being fixed. Hopefully we get patch, gets fixed, and we're good to go. Right? Number five, uniques. So uniques are still able to one shot you with certain attacks, especially Citadel. Citadel, that's there's certain attacks that it's just too much damage. Even with when you see the amount of reduction I have, uh, it, it's crazy. And still, there's certain things that can one shot you. So that just tells you how overtuned some of the monsters are. Because I'm reducing crazy amounts of damage with this, and I'll show you how. Um, so yeah, when you get to the bosses, make sure you gotta you gotta make sure you, if you need to respect or whatever, do what you gotta do to make sure that you're doing as much damage as possible to them to reduce the amount of the encounter. But the damage is it's gonna be on the lower end for the bosses specifically, just because their health pool is so big. Even though I'm doing pretty good damage to the bosses, uh, it's still like it's not gonna be like a sweat meta build where you're just melting everything before it gets a chance to move. I'm working on a solution for that. I'm trying to like go for like instead of trying to electrocute, I'll try to stun. It's stun with the plasma cannon, and then that will be like the substitute to the electrocute, and still let you burst them down, to like at least 25% before they get a chance to move. At least on the lower end of the uniques. Once you start cranking up the difficulty, it's gonna get it's gonna get spicy, but you're gonna be able to tank a lot of the smaller hits. Uh, Whereas before you couldn't tank nothing, you just melt. So that's pretty much the cons on this. So now I'll just quickly go over the build, right? I don't have no mobalytics, nothing created, nothing like that. I just don't have time for that. But I definitely wanted to put this out there just for my homies out there that are still struggling with the witch hunter, because it's definitely, I understand it's definitely not the strongest class. That's fine, somebody gotta be underdog, so we are. Okay, so first of all, this is what my stats look like. Okay, uh, so I just want to focus on a couple of things. I want to just harp on. Fire resist has to be 80 plus. You gotta get it to 80 plus. Otherwise, this it just doesn't hit as hard. It doesn't feel the same. You don't feel as untouchable. You gotta get it 80 plus. If you can get to 90 with some like hyper, trading optimization, great, great, amazing. But 80 is the sweet spot, if you will. Gotta get it to 80. Anything else you can get above 75, excellent, great. So my lightning is 78, cold 76, chaos 52. That's all I can afford right now. If I had 20 divs, I could get all of this stuff to 80, fire to 90. I would just be a god, and chaos to like 75. Uh, but uh, but that'll come down the line, obviously. The other thing that you have to have for this to work, armor has to be 50 plus. I'll explain why later, but has to be 50 plus. I know armor sucks, but that's fine. It's not about the armor. It's about what you're converting with it. Okay, and I'll explain later. So at level 88 for 50 plus, you need to have 4800 plus 4900, something like that. Okay, so it's not really impossible to get. You just gotta get a little creative on how you get it, but it's gotta be 50 plus. Okay, so those two things you need to remember. Fire has to be 80 plus, armor has to be 50 plus. That's it with the stats. Everything else kind of doesn't matter. Also, you need to have 160, 167 or 68 dex plus to fit the Herald Thunder. You gotta fit it in. So remember that strength doesn't matter because you get a lot of it uh, on the tree. Okay. So that's it for the stats. So the next thing I want to show you that's important that you need to understand is you need to have 2,000 plus uh, sorcery ward, but that will come naturally if you get the armor to 50, sorry, 50% plus. That will translate to 2,000 uh, sorcery ward, give or take. You need to have 2,000 at least. Why? That's what feels the sweet spot. It feels like when you hit a T15, if you have 2,000 plus, uh, a lot of things that should one shot you, right, elemental or physical even, it'll go right through the ward, it'll deplete, but you'll be fine and you got time to react. If you get lower than that, you kind of playing a little bit risky. Uh, but well, that's it for the sorcery ward. Okay, so now let's take a look at what equipments I have. Okay, for the equipment, nothing matters except you have to have the cloak of flame. That's how this whole thing works. If you don't have it, don't even bother. Keep being a glass cannon. Otherwise, buy one of these. Should be cheap right now because nobody really uses it. It doesn't. It's not a really. It's not a good item, except with Witch Hunter, because of the way it works. Uh, Basically, bottom line, real quick, uh, everything it converts, it goes to the ward, right? So typically, if you're running Cloak of Flame and you are and you're running any other class, or even not a ward with a Witch Hunter, the 40% of physical damage that will convert, it will convert to fire, but it will still go through your life. So you're still taking the hit, kind of, and it doesn't really feel uh, it doesn't feel as strong, really. But with the ward, it's a lot better, and I'll explain why in a second. Everything else doesn't really matter. Just get. Oh well, I'm sorry, it does. You just gotta make sure you get uh, armor, pure armor gloves. Uh, Try to get pure armor, helmet, and boots. It matters, uh, but it's not mandatory. As long as you can get the stats to where you need to get them, like I said earlier, you'll be fine. Excuse me. Um, Crossbow, 450 DPS plus. That's all you need for T15. You gotta get more if you want to do more than that. You gotta get like up to 500 plus. Plus, you need to have the skill amplifiers. You gotta get it up there if you wanna really be hitting stuff. That's where you gotta be at. But 450 DPS minimum is the requirement for T15. This one's a little bit more than that, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, all right. That's it for the equipment. Not really a big deal. Let's take a look at the passive tree. What everybody's really uh, here for. So first of all, ascendancies. This is just the mapping scheme. Okay. Inquisition. That's how you breach. That's how you clear. Blah blah blah. Okay. You don't really need this against small mobs. Uh, when you go to a boss room, you have to respec to decimating strike. It costs like 30,000 gold, but it's worth it. Just based on clear time and everything. If you have the gold to spare, it's worth it for sure. With the frequency that bosses have, you should be able to make way more than that before you get to the next boss, etc. But I would highly recommend you do that every time you got a boss. You respect to decimating. Take this off. It's just useless there, except for certain specific bosses that spawn a lot of mobs. But it's still even not even worth it then, because if you get lucky, you hit that 30%. You're gonna cut down the time by a lot. at least until you optimize. Okay, so what are we doing here? Okay, so I'll go from left to right, and then kind of explain my decisions here. Okay, all right. So uh, basically, all I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure I got the armor to 50%, and the ward number to 2,000 plus. So every decision I made on the tree was basically aimed at achieving that. Also, I wanted to make sure I got 80 plus on my fire resist, and uh, and as much on the others as possible. So that's the main concept I wanted to do. Uh, then with whatever I had left, I would just try to get as much damage as possible, while maximizing the efficiency of my nodes. Okay, so what's that mean? That means every jewel node possible, and then every efficient node possible. Okay, so from left to right, first one that's of note is heavy armor, right? So what this means is my gloves, my boots, and my helmet get an extra boost in armor, right? It's important that it doesn't say chest because I don't need it. Uh, it's already blocked off with the unique, so it's great, right? So right here, this is giving me uh, 95 plus 133, 139, sorry, and 56, right? So it could be even better, right? But that's why I have that in there. um, and then 15, 30, it gives a little bit extra there. That doesn't really matter. What I wanted is that base armor, because remember, the base armor is gonna get boosted by every other stat that increases by percent. So all of those numbers that I just read from my equipment get boosted by 18, by 15, by uh, by 200 for a crit. So that's you're getting 3 times as much armor against crit from those equipments. So that's a lot. Okay, that's basically the point in there. Uh, this is really good synergy with lightning rod. You will not be missing any shots from far. Well, technically, right? Because if your aim is off a little bit, sometimes it's wonky and it won't hit. Also, when you heavy stun an enemy, for some reason you miss some of the shots. It's ridiculous. It's unfair, but that's how it goes. um, However, most of the time you won't be missing nothing. You don't need crits because you don't want to crit, so that your lightning damage is lucky all the time. Uh, as you all know, this is not news, but if you crit with a roll of one, it's a two. So I don't need that. I need to be able to keep gambling with the roll so I can get the best possible roll. It will be even crazier if this was like, uh, if you could be able to be double lucky or something. Anyway, that's why I have that. So too important to miss. Um, Moving down to the right here, um, beef. I don't need this, but it was way better to go this way than go up because I needed heat proofing, and uh, and if I go around on the top, it's the same amount of points for less strength. So if you see, it's 1, 2, 3 nodes, and then if I were to go, sorry, it's not 1, 2, 3. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 nodes, and then if I were to go this way with the strength, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 nodes, and I get three, three, and then 25, 20, right? So it's 26 additional strength. So that's why I chose that. Um, Blade Catcher critical hits are the number one killer. Critical hits. If you're wondering why suddenly the mobs is just, they were hitting for a little bit and now you just die, is a critical hit. They're just way too crazy. So this is great. So a Blade Catcher, that's why I chose that. and also gives you a little bit of strength, so more life. Heat proofing. So heat proofing is why you have to have 80 plus on your resistance for fire, because just here's the deal, right? When you get hit with physical damage, let's say it's a pure physical damage hit, 40% of that is gonna get turned into fire, right? But as it gets turned, 25% of your armor, so 25% of the 50% reduction, which is 12.5 or something like that, 12.5% of that fire damage, it's pre-reduced. It's already pre-reduced before it goes through your cloak. Then it goes through your cloak, gets turned to fire, right? I'm sorry, the other way around. It gets turned to fire, it gets pre-reduced with your armor, right? Which is why we're not going evasion. Gets pre-reduced, and then it gets reduced by 80%. So that's why the physical hits are not gonna feel as chunky. Even the crits, they're not gonna feel as chunky because they're going through so much conversion reduction that when they finally get to your 80% plus reduction, they're already way less than they should be. So that's why you have to have that in there. Okay, now going down a little bit here to on natural resilience. This is how you get the 80 plus, right? 80 is just the minimum. You gotta try to get more. If you get a 90, you're gonna be walking on water. Let me tell you that. Okay. So get that. It's my recommendation. Get that for this to work. Then we'll go a little bit up here to see what I did on the beginning. This is just a normal, try to get some base uh, efficiency. I didn't go through the strength nodes because strength is not really that valuable. And you might be wondering, oh, why didn't you take bending? Well, it gives me like maybe 200, 150 life. Not worth it. It's just garbage. Armor is way more valuable. Actually, armor, each point of armor is like 4 points of life. Uh, if you try to do the math, that's just like some you know guesstimate. So armor is way more valuable than life in this build specifically. Other builds, I don't know. It's just for this because of the way it works. So I got this. Obviously, one of the best nodes in the game. 20% critical damage reduction. So it's already reduced by 20%, and then it goes through this, which triples your armor. Well, I'm sorry, doubles your armor. So it's great. Then these four points here, I got these 4 points because it's just the most bang for my buck I could get with the points I have. Uh, it just trust me. Like I tried many different combinations of where those extra 4 points could go right now, but the best bang for my buck is to get uh, feel no pain for the 20 easy 20 for 2 points, and then 2 points for an easy 15, and then the stump buildup, which is very important in CC, the little CC that we have. Okay, let's keep going. Going coming down to the center of the tree, um, we take iron reflexes, no brainer. You don't need evasion. It gets turned to armor. It gets your it just synergizes with everything else. Your heat proofing, you know, and the blade catcher. It synergizes way better with that. So we take that. We take this to turn our gloves into double their armor. Each your strength gloves, your armor gloves, uh, turns everything they have into evasion, which turns into armor, right? So it doubles. Pretty much no brainer there. I only take this because I need to reach 168. That's the only reason I take this. If my equipment is better optimized, I can get rid of all this and have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra points. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so these are 5 points that I still have once I optimize, that I can put into Giant Slayer or something like that, that can and this boosts me up to where I need to be for higher end content. So keep that in mind. If you have better gear, you can get rid of this. Um, Sandy Eyes, no brainer. Great knowledge. It's 4 points for 10, for 16 attack speed is great, amazing. Lightning Rod, non-negotiable. You need to be able to hit lucky on every single hit. Otherwise, it's just gonna suck. You're gonna feel it. This I have very little penetration, so I take that. It's you don't have to, but it's right there. It's 2 nodes, so it's bang for the buck. Uh, Reload speed, no brainer. You have to have it, otherwise you're just too slow with a crossbow. Same goes for this right here. You need to have it. It's 30%. This is trash. Everything else is kind of trash, but you need those. So that's why I went there. So that's it for the center. Okay, so now moving to the end of the tree, right? You're probably scratching your head like, why are you not taking, going all the way up here, taking Calamity and taking Wild Storm? It's just not worth it, and it's a waste of points for this build. This build goes way too much to the left. Uh, for it to be viable. Maybe if you're like a level 100, you can maybe manage it. Or if your gear is insane, maybe. But I just don't see the DPS is not. It's not even a change. It's not a difference. So what I took is I took acceleration. Movement speed is premium. Gotta have it. I took Many Strike because it's got movement speed right here, and 25 for 3 points is as good as it gets around here without sacrificing something. A lot of the bigger nodes have like this right here, 40%, but you lose 5% attack speed, and I think it also works with reload, so it's just doubly trash. So I got this right here, and then obviously I got Frazzle because it gives 30, 60, 75 magnitude and shock. So every 10% magnitude is I'm sorry, 2%. Yeah, 2% extra damage or more damage. So that's 2, 4, 6 plus 30, 12, like almost 15 more damage. So that's way too good. Have to have it. That's it. That's a passive tree in a nutshell, right? Okay, so now let's put this to the test. Let's see if it works. Okay, so let's load up 15 and see how it goes. See if we have a 15 somewhere. I think we do. Where's my maps? Okay, there you go. 150. Oh no, maybe this is not the best. Not the best showcase. So let's try to find a irradiated. And this one's, golly, this one has the resistance debuff. But I think even with this, it'll be fine, right? So let's find an irradiated one somewhere and see how it goes. Right, so there's one right here. Decay. All right, let's load it up. All right. Alright, so as you can see, trash melts pretty easy. It's not really that big of a deal. This map is probably not the best showcase because there's a lot of chaos damage everywhere, but they do hit physical as well. So as you can see, I already got popped by something. When you get hit and you see a little shield effect, that means your ward got triggered. So maybe let me get hit by something. See, so that hit got turned into a lot of fire damage, and that fire damage got turned into nothing. So it didn't even hurt my ward that much. And right now I'm just kind of like gathering stuff around. You see that? So that hit right there should have killed me, but it didn't. You see what I'm saying? I don't have to be so scared of every little corner, because there's a lot of hits that should kill you, but they don't with this. See, those guys, they roll into me. I don't even, before I would just dodge roll everything I see moving. I was scared of just everything. But now I can play a little even careless. You could even say it's careless, because I don't really, typically I'm not even talking when I'm playing, because I want to make sure I'm concentrated, blah blah blah. But now I can actually record this and not feel like scared out of my scared out of my life, because I can die just out of nowhere, basically. Okay. Alright, let's do this right here. So pools of blood are physical, so that's great. And you can see my shield popping. Just tanking a lot of stuff. Just popping off. It's just working all the time. You don't even realize how much you get hit with random stuff until you play this. Okay, nothing crazy there. You don't really realize how much random trash damage you get hit with, even if you're playing good in this game. You don't realize until you really run a build like this, because you're always just so scared, and you're playing see, playing on a high level of fear. And you wanna pay attention to the war numbers, and every time I get hit, how they kind of go down, but they go down by so little, which means a lot of stuff is getting reduced, a lot of damage is getting reduced. Oh, oh. See, I should have died there, but I didn't. Still might, because I'm talking, but you see that? Like, that was 100% death. If I was playing my normal build, that was 100% death, because sometimes uh I don't know why this happens, but sometimes even when you're shooting uh your uh your attacks, they stop firing for some reason. Can't figure it out, so you have to re-click, and in that split second while you're doing that, you can die, even if you're doing CC. But with this, you get a second chance, basically, because obviously you gotta wait for the ward to recover. But you do get a second chance, and a second chance, that's worth a million divines in this game. Just based on the stress, and you get just mad if you lose your map to some nonsense, or you get stunned or something. It's not a great feeling. So this is a great way to uh, uh, prevent that. And keep in mind, I'm nerfed right now. I'm playing with 70 fire instead of 80. I'm nerfed. and I'm tanking. Oh, that thing pushes you into them. Okay, got it, got it, got it.
One down. Who's next?
Oh, did I lag? Oh my god. If I die to lag, that will be unfortunate. But uh, yeah, I mean, I would have been so dead uh, in any other situation there, just absolutely dead. Uh, but I wasn't. I wasn't. Okay, so that's the whole point. That's the whole point. Like, you still feel a little bit of the stress, but you're not like, but it doesn't actually come to fruition. It doesn't turn into a death most of the time. I mean, you can still die to chaos damage real quick, uh, but that's not the point of this build. That the point is to make things less stressful, not completely stress free. Okay. And as you can see, you can still melt rares. It's just uniques that really don't die quick. But rares are pretty easy. So there you have it, folks. There you have it. You know, I was nerfed on this map. My actual build got nerfed, and I still made it out alive. Got stun luck like 4 times. Should have died, didn't die, and still melted the map. Okay, so that concludes the showcase. I hope I saved some witch hunters' lives out there. Uh, my brothers and sisters, keep grinding. Don't give up. Wait for the buff. Uh, use ward. All right. That's it for this video. Peace.